Hi, it's Eric, and it's time for our video conversation. One big event that happened in Washington this week was swearing in a new Speaker of the House. Paul Ryan from Wisconsin was sworn in as the 54th Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, and I'm excited because we're going to have someone who's exemplifying a new generation of leadership, and hopefully, I am optimistic, will bring some clarity to a lot of the policy making and getting some things done in Washington. Now it's time to get to our questions, though, and the first comes from Kathleen in Bloomington, who wrote me a letter, and she writes in, Congressman Paulsen, it's my understanding that the READ Act is coming to the House floor. I write to you about my son, who is dyslexic, and the need for schools to help these children who have been left with little to no assistance unless their parents can afford private help. Please support the Dyslexia Caucus and the READ Act. Respectfully, Kathleen. Kathleen, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Approximately 2 million students in the United States have dyslexia and suffer from a learning disability similar to that. And a lot of these students, when they're not taught how to read, for instance, with comprehension, with accuracy, with fluency, it affects their ability to do well in school and their academic achievement down the road. And we need to address that early on to make sure that all these students have the capability of staying with their peers and not falling behind. We did pass the READ Act with strong bipartisan support in the House. It'll actually require the National Foundation of Science, or the National Science Foundation, to focus efforts and resources identifying new development tools for teachers, more resources in what we can do for intervention techniques to making sure we're addressing problems like dyslexia. Next up is an email from Nancy in Edina. Nancy writes in, she says, Representative Paulsen, as a constituent who cares deeply about mental health and suicide prevention, I am writing to thank you for your support of H.R. 2646, the Helping Families in Mental Health Crisis Act. Suicide is now the 10th leading cause of death in this country and is the second leading cause of death for those ages 10 to 24. We can and must improve the lives of people living with mental disorders and prevent suicide. Best, Nancy. Actually, Nancy, thanks for those comments. A lot of folks don't realize, but 1 in 4 Americans will suffer some form of mental illness just this calendar year alone, and 1 in 17 Americans will suffer some sort of chronic mental illness sometime in their lifetime. It's very important to address these issues, but unfortunately the federal government spends something like $125 billion a year on this problem with a huge patchwork and not a very focused effort. This legislation you refer to that I am supporting, and is going to have a more coordinated effort to look at best practices, to look at what actually works, to making sure that if we address these issues head on and get the right treatment techniques to folks that need those types of services, we can make sure that those folks that might be prone to violence to hurt others or hurt themselves will be less inclined to do so if they get that treatment. I want to thank all of you for sending in your thoughts, your questions, your ideas. Continue to stay in touch, of course, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram, or you can reach me by email at paulsen.house.gov.